Okay.
You know, unless something unusual happens, in most cases you're going around deck work. You had a lot of your what's his name that you have to grease and whatnot, your fittings and what, and usually it was after a bad storm because all that grease would be washed out and you got to start all over again. But and you can't go down to the hardware store and buy and get it. Hard grease, we used to come 55-gallon drums there, and and basically it was the same. You know, day after day, you just, the only thing is there was always something that you couldn't quite relax. You know, this, it may happen, and
so just that constant tension.
yeah, it's just there. Or like waiting for somebody to come in the door, and they never show up, or something like that. Yeah, and yet it just because I know a lot of the. Well, I would. The only thing I would take off is my shoes. I didn't want, but then again, you know, your boots and whatnot. But see. Now, between us and the military, see, the military is when you go into service in the military, regardless of what it is, you are paid from the day you start to the day you leave. Now, you take like what's his name, the one that was running for president. He was in he was a flyer. He was in the.
McCain. He was a Navy.
McCain. See if I kept it long enough, he'd get it. I'm the one that should be getting it. So all the time that he spent, he collected up until he left the Navy. This is in our case. When the ship goes down, you're no longer working for anybody. This is the way it is.
So if you don't make the final destination, you don't get paid?
Once that ship goes down, that's it. My pay stops right there. This has been going on for thousands of years. This is the way. It's a carryover. So when they tell me about, I know it's the Marines. I have nothing against them, but as far as I'm concerned, with the business I was in, it was a lot older than the Marine Corps, because this went back even before America was such a place. That you know, this is what, regardless of what countries do the same thing. You just went, you had your, and they still, the British ships. The last I knew during the Second War, they had the two-pot system. That you brought your own, what's his name, dishes and whatnot on the ship. We had cutlery. We didn't have nothing. Everything was the officers ate the same thing we did, or sometimes we did even better. Because I know I knew this one very very good friend, and he was a chief cook on one ship I was on, and then the next ship I was on, I stayed on the ship, and he was chief cook, and he comes in, and I says, "Oh, you gonna make another trip?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "I'm the new steward." I said, "Oh boy!" So a lot of time when I was delegate, a lot of the guys. You have nothing else to beef about, so what do? Blame it on the steward's department. They spoiled everything. And so I used to tell the guys, I said, "Look, hey, this guy bends over backwards. Good meals, 2 meats, 3 vegetables, soup, dessert. You know, you're living. You never lived that good."
So how many crew were aboard? How many?
About 4. About 40 men, okay. Officers and men. So if you're on say if one of our seamen is sick and can't stand watch, then you have to split it up with the others. Somebody has got to cover it.
Did you each get your own bunk space?
Oh yeah, we like on a Liberty ship, they had three men, two ABs and an ordinary. You had your own rooms, and each watch had their own rooms. So and then the bosun and the carpenter usually had their own. They had two bunks, but in that one room. And so there was no problem. You got used to it very easily. And the officers all had their own staterooms.
And they took their meals separately?
Oh yeah, they had the saloon mess. Well, anyway, this fella here, because I always stuck up for him, And for some reason, I don't know, he's a buffalo. These other guys, and anyone you want, well, he's come, and this most unusual. I ate better than the old man or any officers, and not only that, we had a mess man. The steward brought me my plate. I said, you don't have to do this. Well, he says, you make it a lot easier. Or anytime he says, you want some apples, oranges? Here's the keys. Go down to the freezer, get them. Go or anything like. Now there was one time in Belgium, Antwerp. Okay, so. So they had one of our troops at the what's his name, at the gangway. See, and when we got hit, Battle of Bulge, I was in Antwerp. In other words, they were like, the Germans were like from here to Bridgeport from us. In other words, at the time, if the Germans I'd have wound up with as a German prisoner. That's yeah. It's not that I was anxious to get into. So anyway, this one fella, I used to ask all the guys. The closest I got is this fella. He was on a gangway, a trooper, Torrington. And so then one day he's telling me all day he would be on it, and then we'd fix him up. He didn't have to go to barracks. All you had to do is talk to the steward, the steward, what do you want? It's on the menu. What do you want? For dinner? Supper? We'll take care of you. So anyway, and then he was telling me one day, I was on gangway watch, and he said, boy, will I be glad to get out of here. He says, well, all we're doing is using those cots. And he says, my back is killing me. I said, well, now I says, if I know that you're going to be here tomorrow, I said, I can help you. Well, it just so happened, he says, okay. Then I go to the steward after that, I go to the steward, I said, some no good SOB, I just stole my mattress. So the guy looks at me, here's the keys, go down and get yourself another mattress. For all I know, it might be sitting there over there in Antwerp somewhere. But the thing that bothered me after, but you see, if I'd have known that, I could have told him, look, write a letter to your folks. When I get back to the States, I'll mail it. But it never worked out that way. But a lot of guys, it's no picnic. like today, you know, they can run them across, you know, like sometimes here they give them a week off. Well, at that time, you know, forget it, because they didn't have the planes and whatnot to carry you back and forth. And a lot of times, like a lot of these, I know, like the doctor at the what's his name at the VA was saying, what were you guys doing? I said, somebody had to deliver it. I says, we drove the truck. I said, when you see a truck on it, you don't know what the heck he's got in there. He may be dropping stuff off at this place you're going to shop at. So anyway, I said, you know, what even with like some of the guys, the fellow across the street was saying, he says, gee, he says, you guys got it made. You come over here, you go back to the States. I says, can you imagine that if we left the ship, try to get back to the States, it's a long swim. You know, 3,000 miles is a lot of water to cover. So, and I said, all you got to do, you see the materials on these ships, the deck, the cargo, the stuff. I said, you gotta bring it over. You have to bring the empty ship. I says, otherwise you'd have ships all over Europe, but that they were just sitting there. Yeah, and so well, like you mentioned about the Russian ships. I knew it was Russian because like I see the flag,
Right.
But it was a Liberty ship, loosely lent, you know. That they used to tell you after the war, you want the ship back, all you got to do is go down and get it. Because the thing is sitting on the bottom. Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you. But it was a treat. That's why I said I like to see a lot of those tapes and whatnot. But by the time I get around to the chances are pretty good, they'll deteriorate, and I won't get to, but I said it was an education. It was an education. And when I speak of education, now I used to tell some of these, you know, they're talking back and forth. I says, hey, I went to University of Hartford, Trinity, what's his name? Yale? Huh? Yeah. On Saturdays, I used to deliver mail to them for the armored car. And I said, all I did was deliver the mail. I never went to a class there. But it looked good, you know. Gee, yes, this guy, he's a... But, you know, you get a good feeling that you bump into a lot of people, and I say, there's a lot of good people. And when I left the home, because see, I used to a lot of time. A lot of these guys were talking to me because they thought that I was younger than them, when actually I was older. The closest I think I was about 5 years older than the next guy. At meals, you know, they're talking back and forth, and I'm not telling them that I'm older than they are. But then I used to tell them sometimes they want to talk, and a lot of them had family problems and all. I used to tell them like at the lunch, I said, look, I'll talk to you about anything you want to talk to. I says, I don't as long as it isn't personal, private, because that I says I don't know anything about. I don't want to get involved in that. That's something for you to take care of. But you know that. So you figure, well, you know, from since. So I said, anything you want to talk about the weather? Good, we'll talk. You know. So when I got my last day, my son come over to pick me up, and here's got 2 rows of people, and I'm coming down in a wheelchair. I said, what the heck is going on? Because I used to, a lot of them, you knew darn well that, hey, they were not having a nice time. And the part is this, some of the people that worked there, they were robbing the place blind, and the place was robbing them blind. So anyway, they go on, they're hugging me, they're kissing me on the cheek and whatnot. And I said, fine. I said, what is going on? I says, just like anybody else. I says, I'm leaving. I says, as far as you and me, this is the parting of the ways, I says, now you'll get somebody else that'll take my place. And so finally, so I said, look, let's call a hill. I says, I may be wrong. I says, it isn't that I don't cry. But I says, I don't like to do it in public. I says, I just, not that I'm one of those hard-handed, but I said, a lot of you people, I never learned your names. But I says, I appreciate, I only hope that someday I'll be able to, who knows if I'll be here. But I appreciate the thought that you people, in looking after me. And, but as a matter of fact, there was one woman at the, what's his name, when we were having our dinner or supper. And, well, wouldn't you know, there was always an extra dessert that was left. And somehow or other I wound up with it. And I'd look at it and I says, do you know? I says, you're knocking hell out of my physique. I says, I'm getting fat and sassy. And she was black, but very nice. But she was coming, and so then she'd leave that to me. And then the next day she asked me, did you put any? I says, I am steering away from scales. So, but I says, you know what I'm doing? I said, instead of using a wheelchair, I said, I'm going to push it up. So wear off that extra weight I put on. And I'll tell you, and this is when I found someone, my last day there, she would come and I grabbed her, I kissed her on the cheek, and I found out something that most people would never know. Black people blush. It isn't the color, it's just like a glow. And I says, after what you've been doing for me and all these extras, and it's just, now at our family doctor, there's one that I had to go a time test or something because of my Coumadin. So she's black in that area, and she had a little daughter, and evidently she idolizes that little girl. So anytime I go to the doctor, I said, and I keep forgetting her, and I says, how's that little one of yours? And I said, I look at her, you could see her face, and I'd swear that woman is walking 2 feet above the floor. There was another one in the office, the same thing. Just mention her children, and man, that woman is flying. There's a lot of good people, a lot of them that go out of their way.
That brings me to a question. In the emergency service, were the crews integrated?
Yes. Because anywhere, if you're shorthanded, anywhere you can get them, you got them.
And I remember you keep coming back to the theme of, no matter what, the Germans, you have your Russians, you have your British, you have your Americans. Everybody has the same priorities. Everybody's got their folks at home. I found that to be so true. Was that a part of your education that you keep speaking of abroad?
It's just what I had. This is something that I've had in me. That you got to what do you say? Sometimes you say, I scratch your back, you scratch mine, or changey for changey, or something like that. And like I told him about the nurse, when I can't go, yeah, she said, look, when I told her, I said, give him his phone number. I said, I'm going to get him out of this sack. And I don't know where he lived and whatnot, but chances are he'd have hung up on me anyway. So anyway, she says, wait a minute. She says, it's rough, but she says, I can help you out. So every hour she gave me 2 Tylenols. And that would ease the what's the name? Up until my time was due. I never found out her name. But boy, I'll tell you, some of these people, and there's some. There was an easy chair in my room, and chances are pretty good it's double now that because I was only one. Now they got 2 in that room, and a lot. And you'd hear, I'd wake up, and one of them is in there fast asleep in a chair, but they unless somebody come in the room, they couldn't see because your bathroom was cut out of the, and some of them out of the way. And I used to like the one, Barbara, that was her name, but the last names were never used. But 6 o'clock in the morning, the light come on. Okay, Swokla, come on, get up. I told her in the beginning, I says, I didn't like that. But I says, I'll be surprised. I was converted. It just, you just got right in with it. And now you take like this here. I got a whole, I never bought any of these. I had 3 pair of jeans, never wore them. They were in somebody over there is running around with my jeans. White socks. Because ever since I found that when I had a problem with sweaty feet, and so if there's color, I can feel the drawing. So that puts a stop to that. Because man, a lot of times when you could wring the water out of them. And I said, there's so many of these people I should have. I'd like to, bump into them and say, "Gee, thanks a lot." They'd I don't know. But the part is this: at night, you got the aide has got 10 people to try to handle, and the part is this: some nights no problem, some all hell is breaking loose. And that's when I say, Lord, give the people a break. You don't have to be nice to me because I can speak your language. That's what. But it's just, and the thing is to get, okay, so for supper will you have 2 slices of bread, a slice of bologna, you could look right through it. And I says, I wouldn't mind, but the part is this, I'm paying for it. The state isn't picking up on it. Right. And then when I was leaving, the one that was in charge, she has this 11 by 8, and I was supposed to, what I was, how I was treated and whatnot, and I told her, I said, look, I said, I will eventually I'll write a letter, but I said I will never put my name on that for the simple reason, what I'm asked, I have nothing to do with that. I said, what goes on between management and their help, that's out of my line. I have nothing to do with. I said, there's a lot of things that are going on I don't like, but I said, I was taken care of. That's all that I mean. And, and then he wound up earlier about halfway in the middle of last year, they had a strike. And you could see it. Because I was involved with labor relations there on the ships and my delegates. And some of these things that you could do, and the thing about like some of the aides stand next to the door, and I'd be in a bathroom, and I can hear, that the things were not going along swimmingly. But it's just that some people, and the thing about it is, well, you take like even we had 1, 2, 3. She's the fourth one, and we had they come. All she wanted to talk was about someone in an African country there, and I told her, I said, look, as far as I'm concerned, Ghana, and I says, I couldn't give 2 hoots in hell for Ghana, for the simple reason that I have problems here. I don't send them over to Ghana. And so she'd come, spend she had 4 hours. She'd make breakfast and whatnot. And that's why she would not sit on a chair. She had to put a sheet on it because cleanliness, kind of bullshit. I'm 86 years old. How come I lived with all that dirt and whatnot? And but some of these people, they because like this one, I don't have to mention. Right off the bat, she comes. What's it? She'll do the floors, whatnot. She's making my dinner. The only thing I have a problem is this: you make too much. And I'll have breakfast about 10 o'clock, and about 3, 4 o'clock, I'll have supper. That's enough. I don't need that much. I used to come in about 2:20, and I was a big boy at that time. But I dropped all that weight and whatnot when we're trying to handle the wife. And they finally decided to because I'd vacuum the house, I'd put my shoulder up against the thing and run the vacuum. But I said, some of the nicest people. But the funny part, hi, how you, hi, and Mr. Swokla, I said, forget it. I says, we're all alike. We all have our problems. And one of the biggest problems is trying to make a living here. But otherwise than that, so this Barbara was the one. White T-shirts, no problem. As long they disappear. Now, if you had a T-shirt with a logo on it or something, you will always find it. It'll go by the laundry. It'll come back. But if it's a plain white shirt, a T-shirt, you may never see it again, even though your sticker is on there. And but and these here, she says, your PJs are missing. I said, yeah. I said, but I've got some of these things. I said, I never in my lifetime have ever bought any of them. And she'd go to the laundry. Evidently, she must have had pull. Next thing you know, I got about 4 pair of these. I said, hey, as long as but you begin to find out, that there are some nice people that if they can help you out, I know Harriet next door. You can't help but love the woman. She's in her late 60s. They're both of these about the same age. And I get my groceries through Peapod, you know, Stop and Shop.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so I don't have a computer. So what my son does, so I give him a list of what I want and give it to him when he comes in the evening, and he calls it in. And a lot of time, the next day, here it is. The guy's pulling in. Yeah. And now they're going to have labor troubles because they're contracts. And you know, I'm all for it, but the only thing I don't like is with the conditions today, you don't feel that it's right to start pushing and threatening strike and whatnot, because you're cutting your own throat. And like a lot of these places, hey, we'll shut the place down.
Now, when it comes to that kind of struggle, I remember you mentioned it was difficult to get veterans benefits, being part of the merchant service as opposed to anything in the Department of Defense. When did that all come through?
1986. Up until that time, I didn't get. See, in other words, I could not go to the VA until I don't know how they raise. I am a veteran, a limited veteran. Yeah, it is. I figure a bunch of idiots. You know that. Hey, like I figured, if you're hurting or if you're dead, so what is the difference if you're wearing a uniform or not? We all died. As a matter of fact, we had 249,000 men in the merchant service. So consequently, when they added up the total, percentage-wise, and there's a debate that we had more casualties than even the Marine Corps.
Per capita.
Yeah. Because we had the military, the Coast Guard, and all the other. We had a lot more than what they had casualties. We had nothing to go to. In other words, all you had to do was just when I got left the service, it was good because the place I worked with, we had medical. Otherwise, I would have to put on my own pocket. There was from the government. There was nothing. And I feel look, and I don't like it. Well, now I have, but now what's happening is you've got so many of these people. You know, hey. Afghanistan, Iraq, and all these other. We've got so many of these people coming that are in service, getting banged up and whatnot. And I figured, hey, these are yours. You take care of them. Why should a stranger look after them? If I'm in the military, hey, why? I expect that I'll be put in a military hospital. But hey, you just completed and some of what they're going through, I can't accept it. You're one of ours. So after that, and you know, who finally put the okay on the on our getting the veteran, that limited veteran. Now, there was no such thing as the Air Force.
That's right, the Army Air Force.
Or the Navy, each one, you know, they had their own. And then you're telling me, and you are going to decide whether I'm worthy of become a veteran? You just couldn't understand it. I figure we're all the same. And, you know, if I'm hurting, okay, so now you could go into any hospital, they got to take care of you. But the part is this, hey, now, like I have Blue Cross, and I don't know. This is why I'm figuring the possibility that what we're pressing for is because the VA I'm covered now, but they're limited. Now you go that. Did you ever see that place there in Newington, the VA hospital?
Yeah, I believe so.
On Robin. Now they added about, oh God. Now when you see that building, the part that about better than half of it is all new. The other one, there's nothing there. It's empty. It used to be the hospital. They moved everything down to North Haven.
Okay.
Yeah. And you haven't got space for them? Open up that place there in Newington. You know, there's a lot that, what gives? Open them up because, and then there was a squabble between the military and the VA because the VA couldn't handle him. Well, hey, if you got money to throw away all over to all these liars and cheats, for heaven's sakes, all over Europe and whatnot, and you can't take care of yours, you know, and the part is this. This person, he had life to give. That's acceptable? You can't take care of him? There's a lot of these. So they're finally, now they find out, like, okay, so World War II, when we see, every so often they used to fire the cannons and whatnot, and nothing, no cotton or anything in your ears, you just took it. Now they find out, with these other ones overseas, the trauma that's being built up from all this noise. And it takes you all this time, but what about the poor son of a gun that's got to go through it? A lot of them are cracking up. Oh, drugs, their alcohol. Did you ever try to, possibly, his active duty has a hell of a lot to do with what the condition he's in?
No, you come back to Patton, talking about slapping his brother in a hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, that was before we started talking about drugs. We started talking
right.
It seems to be almost a human condition.
But well, I didn't like it when I read the book there, and it said that he was 40 miles away in a hotel, comfortable, and his guys were sleeping on the ground. And I like his attitude and whatnot, but some of his attitude, I couldn't stomach. And not that it means anything, because chances are pretty good he tried slapping me around if I mention it to him. Who cares? But it's if you expect people to work with you or for you, you got to be nice to them. Because I know, like even my son says, you get more out of people if you're nice. But if you try to mistreat them or anything, you're going to have hell.
What's the expression? You catch more flies with honey than vinegar.
There's a point there, yeah, and it's amazing because a lot of these guys. Now I remember at one place that I worked at. Now we had this one guy come as supervisor, and man, he was shooting for the top. He never got there. He finally quit the company and went to Maryland. He worked in another one of those companies. So consequently, and right off the bat, and John, I forget, he's down in Baltimore now. And boy, right by the book. And I says, John, you know, I've been here a lot longer than you, and if you're going to do it this way, you're going to run into problems. I don't like to be pushed either, you know. I don't like people looking over my shoulder, you know, to make sure that I'm doing the. So, but he changed, and I'll tell you that was for the best. He would come and he says, "Hey, Walt, I got a problem." I said, "Okay, John." He was a younger fella. "So what is it?" "That. Don't worry, I'll take care of it." And no problem. And I says, "John, when you come to me like that," I says, "Hey, we're on level ground, and that's all there is to it. I know you need a hand. Why not? If I'm going to be standing there watching the clouds outside," I says, "Hey, I can give you a hand." But he was great that way, and I said, and my son uses it the same way to talk to the guys, and or like he goes out to this burger on school street. They have that the grinders. So what does he do? He says a lot of the time he'll ask the guys, you know, if they won. He says, "I'm going to get some grinders. You want some?" He says, "Hey," he said, "think nothing about it. Come down, whole list of there, you know, they pay for the home." But he says, "Bring a dozen of them. Okay, just give me the money here." And here it is. And he says, "You'd be surprised." And what I like that real Polish kielbasa. Yeah, usually it's for Easter, you know. And boy, so they got some machinist from New Britain. So the other day he comes, he says, "Hey, Dad," he says, "I was talking to one of the fellas, and he says, if I won," he says, "you can pick up some of that Polish kielbasa."
It's a big Polish community.
Yeah, and boy, the next day he comes over, big, and the simplest thing to make: sauerkraut and kielbasa. You have to just throw them in a pot with a little water and let them work, and the flavor. Oh, but and you know, and the party, because when you're being snappy and whatnot, don't want to forget it. I don't like it. I don't like to pass it on to anybody else. But you know, it's too bad. There's a lot of good people in the world that, and you know, it doesn't break your heart to say, "Hey, you did all right." I know at the home, you know, so you give them a pat on the back, not on the fanny, because some of those women would resent it.
Now, when you talk about stress, did your ship ever come under direct fire?
Not that I know of, because a lot of time, off in a distance, you could see the blossom. And
how dispersed were these convoys? How far apart were you?
I would say they were about a quarter of a mile. You may have about 10 rows, and all the same. So what you knew was when you had fog, especially when north, once you get out of Halifax, and that fog, you know, it would be when you looked. Sometimes it was you could see the mass of the ship, and that's all you could see, because the fog was down to the water, but you couldn't see the ship.
How'd you stay in formation then?
Well, what you had, each one you had a number with a whistle, And especially when you're that way you could, but when you were blacked out, where you couldn't see anything through the fog. All you did was every so often the officer blow the, say if you're the fifth in line or first in line or whatnot, and then you blow that, then they know that you're number one in that line. There's other way. I don't all the details, but that's, or they had a gadget that was supposed to take a long line. I'd say maybe about the length of a football field, and you used to drop it in the water, and it had a plane on it, and then it had like a scoop on the back that was supposed to blow the water up, about 8-10 feet in the air. Well, if all you got is what's his name, that fog, you're not going to see anything. So they finally decided you get some of these empty 55-gallon drums, put a couple of and just put two holes. Put the shackle and over the side. That, and all you do, you're going along, you hear the tup, 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 skipping on the waves. you know there was something was there. But otherwise, they go through all the problems what they would to make that, and half the time, sometimes it would shoot down, and all of a sudden, what the hell's going on over there? Yeah, they come shooting out of the water. Good God. And a lot of time, on bow lookout, you're looking over the ear, and you look, and what used to scare the hell out of you? Porpoises. All of a sudden, you see the streak coming towards the ship. Oh, this is it. This is it. And then you hear them snorting because they play around the wake. But otherwise than that. And then all of a sudden they're disappearing. They're over by another ship. But it was something there. When you think back there, it is. But what sometimes bothers me is this: when my time comes, just imagine what I've learned and whatnot. It's useless. I can't pass it on to anybody else. Once I've left this world, even though I've learned a lot of these people that have learned so much, you can't unless you wrote a book or something like that.
Well, it seems like that's the big movement with the digital film, and they're trying to record as many stories as possible.
Yeah, it's good though.
So it gives you an eternal quality,
yeah. Well, I was a little leery, when and even this morning I got up, which means I got to shave. I don't, and so anyway, I says, "Gee, what the heck?" But in a way, it's good because I think you're getting something from the person that we don't all see the same thing. We may be sailing the same ships and whatnot, but we have different attitudes or different approaches. That's it's great, and you have a chance, to it's great to just to talk to somebody, and know that like a lot of times now we have Brad Davis. It's a radio show in the morning. And what I like about it, I'm not exactly wild, but a lot of things I agree with him. But what I like is he has a call-in show. You can call him up. And the amazing part, I says a lot of times I think of something, and here's this guy, I don't know him from Adam. He's looking at it the same way as I am. And all the time you figure, I should bother calling him up for heaven's sake. He must think I'm a nut. And here's another one. It gives you a good feeling that you should. I think an awful lot is we miss people. All people are not the same. Like I say with Harriet. Now Harriet would Peapod, if they run out of stock or anything. Now they've changed it where they would substitute if they are out of stock. But or otherwise, if it was out of stock, they give you credit, but they wouldn't. They wouldn't make a separate trip for you. And Harriet, all the part is this: she goes now. I took a flip over here a couple of years ago to the mailbox. Well, I looked there. It was just a little snow, but I figured, well, I have big feet, no problem. Well, I got as far as the sidewalk. Well, the part is this: as a kid, I used to belong to one of the tumbling groups, so I was figured when I'm going down, I'm not on the sidewalk. I'm going to land in the snow. It's a lot easier to land in that than that. So anyway, when I told her that, she says, "Look, from now on, 4:30." She says, "I get home. I'll take care of your mail." She says, "I'll go." And she gets, in many instances, she gets the mailman. He's not supposed to do that, but he will drop my mail in her mailbox, and then she'll go and because some of them will drop in, and then she'll bring it in a home, and she'll if you need anything from the store, just let me know. And what I don't like about it is this, and I tell her, Harriet, you know what bothers me? You go and get it. Why is it when I give you the money to pay for it, I can't accept it? Huh? All I'm doing is replacing what you spent on me. She, all I want is thanks. I hope this world is changing. You know, nicest. Anytime you need anything, just let me know, and I'll go. Or a lot of time they're running a special. She would make a special trip to pick it up. And I used to tell her, I said, "Look, Harry, the only time is you pick it up if you're going shopping. Don't make a special trip, because at that time gas was running almost $4 a gallon. You know, that's ludicrous. You know,
Excuse me. What time did you get here today?
About 10:15.
Yeah.
So he hasn't even eaten lunch.
Huh?
He didn't even eat lunch.
Oh, I ate on the way down. I should be all set.
Hey, you want to mix a plate for him? Give us something.
Listen, I made some spaghetti and meatballs. Would you like some? Because
Good.
Are we eating?
Because he doesn't eat. You want to eat some?
Sure. Well, I'd hate to see him by himself.
Would you like to eat some pasta with him?
Yeah.
Okay, because I just made his, so I'll make you a dish too. Because I have enough left.
Oh, thank you.
No, he's treated me very well. But no, look, some of them. I make a pot of coffee or something, and I would say, "Help yourself."
Do you want me to make a fresh pot of coffee, or do you have some made already?
I made it this morning. You can put it in the
In the microwave?
yeah.
Does he like stale coffee? I guess he can't be fussy.
Coffee.
I'm all set, thank you.
Right?
Well, you're gonna have the spaghetti.
Right.
Good. And but and some and the part is this: the black ones. She'd give you about maybe a half an hour, and then after that, plunk herself on it and fast asleep till 12 o'clock. That was all the work she did. Broad. I could stand behind her twice, and you wouldn't see me. And they wouldn't. And it's just Ghana. And I kept telling her, that's the least of my concern about Ghana. Because if it's such a wonderful place, what are you doing here? You know, But I know, because this way a lot of these homes and whatnot, this is where they get their cheap help. Because they've got nothing. And, but even then, some of those, but some of them, man, that, but you figure you meet them halfway, and see they were set on from like in her case from 9 to 11, and then three days a week, and she has some of it, so no problem. But like this one here, like the other one there, now she wouldn't this one. If you want something, to eat and whatnot, they're supposed, according to the there's some regulation, they're supposed to their own. She won't, unless maybe because I twisted your arm so that you can. So anyway, that